Welcome to the chase. You know, we're all running this race. We're all trying to claim victory in it. In my job, I get to sit down with wealthy people all week long. I hear about their wins, I hear about their losses, and quite frankly, like a bartender, I hear about their heartache. And I don't want you to run that type of race, or at least I want you to succeed at the race that you're running, and I want you to succeed at something that matters. Think about it like this. All the while you're chasing after something that's good, God's chasing you with something great.
Well, hello, I'm Chris McAlpin, host of The Chase. Welcome. I'm glad you've joined us today. You know, our goal on the show is to demonstrate how any American can achieve financial success. And our goal is also to demonstrate how to change hearts, really, by showing the biblical truth of salvation and love. And that's a pretty ambitious goal. And ambition is good. Hard work is good. Success is good. But none of these are ultimate. You know, we should never put our trust, we should never put our faith, our hope, our ultimate desires in money or anything that comes from money. All right. Money is a great tool, but it is an insidious master. It starts to tear at our souls when we place money and success and status above all those things in our life. And be careful, because in our society, we're taught to do this throughout entertainment, throughout the news cycles, throughout the political cycles. This is what we revel in America. But the Bible teaches us how to have financial success, and it teaches us how to have that peace, that inner stability that comes from salvation and God's love. And so this week, we're going to talk about college planning. And honestly, college planning by parents it's one of those topics that in financial planning is the most talked about and the least acted upon topic that I've seen in my experience. I mean, we as parents, we love the idea of including it in our college plans. But I would go quite honest with you. Most time when I sit down with somebody, retirement planning and long-term investments are their favorite topics to really dive into and do something about. And I think this is because of a couple of things. I think that we're frozen by costs that seem astronomical, and we're maybe frozen as well by complexities that seem stupid. Okay. I remember when our daughters were born, and I remember I'm a financial advisor, so I can do the math, and I start to calculate how much it's going to cost to send my daughter to State or Ole Miss or Southern, take your pick of a state school. And it's going to be somewhere near $100,000. And I thought, that is ludicrous. I'm not about to spend $100,000 for 4 years at State, Southern, or Ole Miss. And now that my daughters are getting a little bit closer, I'm preparing to spend $100,000 for 4 years at State, Southern, or Ole Miss. And the complexities are even more stupid. And I've kind of come to realize that's a little bit of life. But cost and complexities are not the full story. If you think that college is too expensive and that it's too complicated to even start diving into planning and to get your child through school without a mountain of debt, then I want you to stick around for this interview. Our colleges are ridiculously expensive and complex, quite frankly, because the government got involved a few decades ago and started lending and giving lending stability to the price of the product that colleges offer. And anytime that the government does that, it causes prices to skyrocket and the complexities to get all twisted. And this is a topic for another day. You didn't dial in here today to listen to me rant. You want us to talk about some solutions. What can we do about this? And so if you like me and you want your child to go to an excellent college and be prepared for an excellent career, the one that God has them crafted for, that career that God has blessed them with their unique personalities and their unique skills, then stick around. Listen to this interview with Amber McHenry. Because Amber is the franchise owner of Class 101, a firm whose mission is to empower students, serve families, and inspire greatness. They do this by tackling all things related to college, testing prep, resume building, and one of my favorites, college, career, or really career, major, and college mapping to fit those to try to find the best fit for your child. And I love that idea. That's actually been my favorite part of the process. Amber is also a wife. She's a mother of 4, So she has to eat her own cooking, put her money where her mouth is, so to speak. She was a school teacher before starting Class 101 to help students get to college and to do so much more. Amber, welcome. Thank you
Well,
for joining me today.
thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad you're on the show with us. So teach us all things related to college. Here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Rapid round. All right.
Okay.
In your own words, describe Class 101.
Class 101, we tell people we do three things. We're going to find the best career for your child at the lowest price, at the best college that fits them. Because college, like you said before, it's a financial decision. And you want to make sure that you are definitely choosing the best financial college for your child's major and what they want to do one day, not just the major but the career. So we're hoping to help students find that career that God has for them, that they're going to be happy and successful at. So that is very short what Class 101 is.
I love that answer. And I'm going to ask how we do that in a minute, but I want to go somewhere first. Now,
Sure.
tell me, how did you transition from being a school teacher to both college prep master and business owner? Because those are two very different hats. Actually, there's three very different hats.
Yeah, it is. So, just a quick little background. I am actually from the coast of Mississippi, Ocean Springs, Biloxi. And my husband's from North Mississippi, and he moved this beach girl right on up here to North Mississippi 20 years ago. I started teaching, and we wanted one child, and I had one child. And surprise, I ended up with three more back to back to back. So I taught for 3 years. I have a state certificate master's degree in English. So I'm secondary English as well as any of the social studies and French. So that's what I kind of started with. I then stayed at home. After my youngest daughter started first grade, I said, I'd like to go back to the classroom. I felt that that's what God was having me do. So I was actually teaching high school English, and sitting in 10th grade, the student walks in and he pulled up this ACT program on his computer, and he and my oldest daughter, were at the same age at the time. I said, "What are you doing, Ben?" And Ben said, "Miss Amber, walk. Don't." He said, "Run, don't walk. Go see this guy. Go see Class 101." So I came at that time. It was a previous owner, and I had met with him and enrolled my daughter and my son. That young man who I originally spoke with went from a 25 up to he ended up with a 34 by the end of it all. And so my daughter, I watched the program for a year. I came to every meeting. My daughter went from a 25 and ended up with a 32. And my son's at a 26. And right now we're hoping for that 32 because it's an extra $16,000 in scholarships next year. So to be really honest with you, at that point in time, I felt that God was kind of leading me to this point. And so he asked if I wanted to join in. And I said, yes, I'd love to. And because I was very active in the school systems, PTO president at my daughter's schools, and very involved at that time, a lot of people knew me. And when I put it out there on social media, I immediately had 15 students. So I knew that that's where God had called me to be. In 2020, I bought part of the ownership or bought part of the partnership, but unfortunately COVID hit. But I was still working. I was still Zooming with my students, and we were still prepping for college at that point in time.
Sure. College went on. Yeah.
He did. And then finally, January of this year, I became the sole owner of Class 101. And I have absolutely loved it. I feel that this is where God has for me. When parents come in, I hope they see the passion that I have, not only for their students, but for the process of making sure that they get in the college that they need to be in, you know?
Right on. Yes, absolutely. And I know the feeling of business ownership during COVID. That was a blast. So much fun. So much fun. It's like, great idea. Let's have a global pandemic.
Exactly.
All right. Let's shut the economy down. All right. Here we go. So talk to parents a minute, because the ACT scores it's something we can all latch on to. It's very defined. It's a rock hard, tangible number. Went from a 25 to a 34, and wow, because I thought only astrophysicists made 34s, right? But how should a parent think about college planning or think about college prep?
Sure. So when I talk to parents, I want to be honest with them. College planning is so much more than just a test score. There are some colleges now that are test optional. So if your child has a 4.0, but they're not good test takers. There's options available for that. So when we talk about college planning, it's so much more than just an ACT test. It's the community service. They're looking for the kids that are making a difference in the world. There was a generation that we kind of went through where the kids were all about the me generation, and still they're taught through the television and everything else that life is about them. Well, it's not. It's not about them. And my main thing in this world is to teach these kids to start serving, because whenever we can serve and we can help each other, that's what we were called to do on this earth. So I tell them the first thing is that you were called to be a servant. And until you can learn to be a servant, you can't be a leader or anything else. So college
Hmm.
planning is not just an ACT score. It's having kids who are members of their youth, members of different organizations, members of um, anything that they can see fit to do, to give Habitat for Humanity, any of that. I have kids who are wanting to be vets. The Humane Society is the best place for them. So it's kids who are willing to reach out and not look at themselves anymore and to look around them. I understand that today a lot of people, and I'm very guilty of this, put a lot of emphasis in sports. We thought sports, sports, sports. Well, sports is great, but they also need to be involved in a lot more. Um, Clubs at schools, anything like that. It's a holistic approach these days.
And Amber, wasn't our generation the first me generation?
Yes.
I
Yeah, because
suspect I suspect the ones before us were me self-centered generations as well. That's seems to be a part of our sin nature. All right, and so when let's tackle this idea. So
okay.
what do you think that we should expect out of college?
Yeah, so I think college is really a time period for um, students to find themselves. 18 to 21 is such a funky age. It just really is. They're not teenagers anymore, but they're not yet adults. I know my daughter just came from college, and believe it or not, she can solve everybody's problems these days. She learned
I
so much in
bet.
that first semester. She has been telling me all about it, about how I can improve my life because she took psychology and she's an engineering major. So
Yes.
really glad
Yes.
that
That's
college
just what I
allows
want an engineer to tell me how to solve all
I
of my life's problems. Yes.
I was just so impressed with her
I
knowledge.
bet.
Um,
Gosh.
but I think college it's just wait.
Did you
Uh,
expect that? Did you expect that out of her?
I did.
Was she
Yeah, 'cause
that personality? Yeah.
I looked at her and I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'm great. Thank you, God. I'm raising one just like me." So
Yes.
I called my mom
You
and I said,
know my
"I'm so
oldest daughter. I
sorry."
could see my oldest one sitting down and having a good, long, hard conversation with me when she comes home from school. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I called my mother and said, "I am so sorry. I remember
Yeah,
not
right.
doing this. I'm so sorry. I did not know anything."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, and all joking aside, I think college is a time yes, for them to maintain good grades, for them to get a degree that hopefully branches off into a lifelong career that God has for them, but it's also a time to find out who they are. They were under our not rule, but our parenting until they were 18, and then suddenly now they're living on their own with a roommate or by themselves, and they're trying to figure out who they are. So I think God gives that 18 to 21-year-old range it's a time period to just find out who you are, what matters to you. And that's why I'm hoping that teaching them service and community service and all that plays into that so they can see that the pathway that God has for them is one of service. So I
And
think
I love
college,
that. I mean, because it does demonstrate to the student how life works a little bit better, because that's one of the knocks in college. I know in our line of work, and I've talked to a lot of B school professors, and I always come down to a question: how do you teach risk in school? How do you teach risk? And for our line of work, and I'm talking about investment risk management, that sort of thing. And beyond being able to do it mathematically and academically, they cannot. And the best professors will look at me and say, I can't, because there's nothing on the line when you're in college.
right?
And so if you're a student that's thinking, okay, I'm gonna go do the best I can on the ACT, and then I'm going to just borrow the rest of the money and I'll just pay it back someday way down in the road. Who cares when that day comes? Then all of a sudden they just get smacked in the face when they're 22, 23. They see that first full student loan bill and they see their first little bitty paycheck compared to that big giant student loan bill. And they go, wow, I hope that 4 years was worth it because it stinks now. And I like the idea that you teach service and because it shows them where to run and where to act. And it's one of the best ways to gain maturity is to serve in hard places, to go do hard things. And they're real hard things. You and I have talked about this. They're not resume filler hard things. No, go do something that matters. I love that. So let's start getting a little practical. And how should we? I'm still talking about parents. We're not talking about students yet. How? Because I don't think any students are listening to our show. No, I don't think so. They go, you sound like my dad. Well, I am. I'm a dad, so that's probably why I sound like a dad. You know, but how should parents? How should we as parents prepare for college ourselves? And what do you think? It's kind of two questions. I'll stop there. How should we prepare?
So I firmly believe that, I mean, yes, you can put aside money, obviously, yes, those things, but there's so much more than just saving. Invest in your kids. First thing I can tell you as a parent myself, invest in your children. Don't, now I'm not talking about financially, I'm talking about invest in them when you're little. Do service projects, involve them. Serve at the Salvation Army, serve in your church. Have them witness you, be a role model. Have them witness you as a parent doing these things. Teach them work ethic, get them to school on time. As a former teacher, those parents whose kids never came in, well, they just slept late. No, you're not teaching them anything because these are lifelong lessons that you've got to teach them now. So the first thing is teach them work ethic. Work ethic matters. It matters in their grades. It matters in their decisions. Kids with good work ethic tend to have better grades. When they're younger, read to them. Read to your students. Give them a love of reading. Because believe it or not, the ones that do the best in the ACT in all subjects are my readers. Those who read and have learned to read. And I ask them, how long have you been reading? Well, my mother read to me. I read to my kids. Every summer, I was the mean mom who required my children to read an hour a day. We shut everything off. We read every day, an hour in the summer, including me. I love to read. So read to your kids every day. Get them reading. Be the role model. Teach them work ethic. Show them, hey, if we're going to go do this, we need to do this. So be that role model for your kids. Go ahead and start that. Invest in their grades. Tell them, hey, you know what? If a B is the best a student can get, that's fine. That is great, but help them to do the best they can do. Don't ever do it for them, please. As a teacher, I had parents writing papers for their kids and everything else. Don't ever do that. If a kid has done something wrong, let them, if they're behind on a essay, a test, or whatever, let them take that grade because those are life lessons to learn. That if this happens, there's a consequence. So let these kids have consequences. Be these role models for them. That's the best thing I can tell you about prepping for college.
And when you say teach, so take most people I know are fairly hardworking. They're at work on time. They work a full day. They do excellent work. But most people I know, I don't know how well they do this in translating it to their kids. What is it about teaching them? What is that specific lesson that a parent should be to draw from that? I mean, where's the intentionality come from?
As far as work ethic?
Well, it's just, I guess what I'm driving at it is I think there's a lot of people that maybe do what you're saying. They don't demonstrate it. They don't teach it. They don't sit down and say, like reading with a child. We now hand them an iPad. It's really easy. Let the iPad babysit them. That's a terrible idea. Gosh, I hate that idea, by the way. I abhor that. Do we, I don't know, I guess what I'm driving at, I don't know how many times parents will sit down and just be intentional about what you're saying. I think is that what's lacking?
Yeah, the intentionality. I totally agree with you. When you sit down, I have a planner and I've taught my kids how to use a planner. This is what we have this week. This is what you're supposed to have this week. Have you made time to study for that Spanish test? Did you make time to read that? Did you make time? So being intentional, sitting down with them. Sundays are a great time to have a family meeting. We have ours on Sunday night. It's a family meeting, 30 minutes. We all sit down, we go over our week and we say, hey, this is what we've got this week. Who needs to be picked up? Who can pick this person up? Luckily, now I've got almost 3 drivers. So
That's so good. I've
I
got a
know.
driver. It is so nice. I love that.
I don't mind at all having kids
No.
drive. So let's sit
I
down.
pay for the gas. I pay for the car.
Exactly.
You're my little errand girl. Go.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Just be intentional. Have those Sunday meetings, family meetings. We may have hot chocolate during it. We may have something a little special. But if you have meetings at your work and you expect people to do stuff, do the same at your house.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
kids don't know. They have to be taught. So take that time, teach them. Have those, even little ones. My 12, 10-year-old could sit down and still have a meeting with us. Give them chores to do. There is nothing wrong with a child cleaning their own bathroom. So give them some chores to do.
I think there's something wrong with the child not cleaning their own bathroom.
Yes, I agree with you, but you would be very surprised at how many seniors I've had to help teach to wash their own clothes. So,
Really?
yes. Oh, I'm
Wow.
very
Okay.
serious, very serious. So do these things, be intentional, teach them, show them in God's word where this is, because
Right.
God calls us to work. So definitely show them in the Bible, the verses, the stories about
Do
working.
you think that we forget that we're raising adults?
I do. I think that I think life is busy these days. Life is busy. We fill our calendars, and I'm just as guilty. We fill our calendars with everything under the sun. And we expect our kids, oh, guess what? Here, this is it. You just got to know how to do this. Why don't you know how to do this when we're raising the adults, but they're still kids and they've got to learn how to be an adult. And
Right.
as God-fearing parents, that's our job, is to raise them like that. But we
Right on.
forget.
Right. So let's pivot a minute. What is the student's responsibility in preparing for college?
Yeah. So the student's responsibility is to always do good on grades. I have so many freshmen that come in here and sophomores, and they're like, oh, well, it really doesn't matter to my junior year. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It starts mattering your 9th grade year. Colleges are wanting to know what you did in high school. They don't care about 8th grade and beneath, but those are the years to figure it out what you want to do in high school as far as community service and grades. So it's up to a student to stay on top of their grades, their work, to be involved in clubs, to want to be involved in clubs. You're seeing by the time they get to seniors, like, oh, I didn't know how to do all that. Yes, I've been trying to tell you that. Get involved in clubs, get involved in things that mean a lot to you. I mean, that's a student's responsibility. And plus, ACT, I know that it's not a good topic for everybody. Everybody does not like it. But unfortunately, that's where the merit scholarships, or the scholarships that the colleges give you based upon your ACT and GPA. So we have to do it. So if people are providing you with training and classes and stuff, take advantage of that, because every point is literally $1,000.
Wow. Really? Okay.
Mhm.
I didn't realize I'd on the ACT, but I knew it was a lot. So you mean to tell me that partying your way through school is not actually a good idea? You don't get a good result out of that?
No, I'm so sorry. That's just not going to
Oh,
happen.
gosh. No, that was my problem. Wow. Okay. Just now learned that. So scholarships. Tell me about scholarships. What are, because you said merit scholarships, and then no, there's these other things, and then there's these other things, and then there's these other things. Can you simplify that for us?
Yeah,
In
I sure can. I can simplify.
Sure. All right. Tell me
Um,
about it.
that's my favorite topic.
Okay.
Okay, so we start applying for colleges the summer before their senior year. So Ole Miss is actually the first one that opens up January 1st. Once you're accepted, then they send you portal information, and through that information, you fill out scholarship applications these days. Now, you're automatically going to get money based upon your highest ACT as well as your GPA. And most schools these days do something called super scoring. And super scoring on the ACT is where they take the highest English, the highest reading, the highest math, and the highest science of all the tests you've taken, and they combine them and give you a new score. So that super score at in-state schools will give you more scholarship money. So that's merit based and GPA scholarships. So those are just a given. Now, outside scholarships, so when you fill out these scholarship applications, they're going to put you in for every freshman scholarship available. Some of them will be needs based. So that's going to depend on the FAFSA, the federal form that you fill out beginning in October of your child's senior year. So some of them will be needs based, but the other half of them will not be needs based. They will be if your child was involved in all the things I talked about, the community service, the clubs, student body president, if they attended Hobie leadership in Jackson their junior year. So there's additional scholarships for all of that. Finally, the last range of scholarships are going to be your outside scholarships. So these are going to be the ones that are local from your banks, and we apply to all of those. These are also going to be scholarships that Coca-Cola gives out. We had a Coca-Cola scholar, a Burger King scholar last year. So these are kind of the national scholarships that we do apply for. Your chances are kind of low on those, but still, you just never know if you're that one. So it's worth filling out.
Okay. When does this start your junior year, your senior year? When
Well,
does that type of
yeah.
paperwork start?
Okay. So you're building your resume up until that point. The paperwork starts your senior year. So
Okay.
my students are typically with me weekly, and we're filling out these essays, and I'm helping them with their essays, and we're filling out scholarship applications all the way through March of next year.
And
So
just hearing you talk, this feels overwhelming to me. I mean, which is, by the way, why we hired y'all. So because I'm hearing this going, oh my goodness. And I'm a financial planner. This is what I do for a living. And this feels overwhelming to me. So college planning has, where I think 20 years ago, you could sit down with your advisor. You started at 529, you invested money, you saved it, and you went on with life. And there, when your child got into their junior or senior year, if they're trying to get, it's always seemed like the kids that were like 28 and they're trying to get a 30, or they're 30 and they're trying to get a 32 or a 33. And, but for the rest of us normal people, we didn't go to a tutor. I take that back. I played football. So I had an awful lot of buddies that went to my mother, who was a math teacher, and she did ACT prep, who were going to get a 17 so that they could get a college football scholarship. Those are the guys I hung around with,
Yeah.
And so, but everybody else, like all the, if you didn't fall into one of those categories, like that are parents now, I don't think we went and did a lot of this. You just kind of filled out an application. You went to junior college, you went to State or Ole Miss, and I'm from Tupelo, so it was, of course, where everybody went. Of course, the other Mississippians can go to Southern Miss, and there's a lot of listeners that are in other states. So pick your state school of choice there. I don't want to get into any rivalries here as football season has wrapped up. That can be very dangerous. I can
Yes.
get all kinds of nasty emails about that kind of stuff. But, as you and I could just go back and forth on this because there's so many questions of just how. I would encourage someone, hire someone to help you do this. And we chose to work with Class 101, but there's other institutions that are state funded institutions and can cost the parent nothing. I want to showcase Amber because that's what we chose, but there are many options, and I encourage a parent to go explore multiple options. But I think you said it best, Amber, when you say invest in your child. You and I talked in the first conversation, and you made the statement, don't buy them a new car, invest in their life.
Yes.
Okay. If you have a choice of buying them a new car or investing in them and hiring a college prep firm, hire the college prep firm. I guarantee you it'll be a lot better.
Much better on your return.
Much better. Oh yeah. I mean, we're talking decimal places return is what this could be. And the car's just going to be a piece of junk in a few years. And so, Amber, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. Before I mention that, I want to let you know that our founder of this company is Tom Paben, and he's in Kentucky. And when he came up with this idea, he realized he had his own kids. He was like, "There's nobody to help me with this." And you're completely right. Back when I graduated in 1994, a long time ago, um, there was nothing. You filled out the paper, you went to school. I took the ACT. I did fairly well on the ACT. I made it in the mid-20s. After I took it 5 times, my mother take me, you have to do this, you have to do this. But
Yeah.
he had a vision. And I think that, my kids are a product of this. And as my daughter's at Alabama this year, we're not paying anything basically for her to go out of state. So
Yeah.
invest in your kids. I mean, he had a wonderful concept, and he's a very godly man, and I think that God has given him this concept. So it's a great thing where we do the one-on-one work with the child. It's the relationship building.
Yeah.
I value my relationships because I have my own 4 kids, but then I have 150 kids who I
Yeah.
love dearly and want them to know that they're prayed for and loved every day. But to get in touch with me, I'm located in Tupelo, Mississippi. I service Mississippi. You can get me with my email. It's A McHenry, AMCHENRY at myclass101. You're more than welcome to call me on my cell at 662-610-3823. I'm here to help, and I'm here to help all families and make this affordable for everybody.
And I can absolutely agree. I've had a number of conversations with Amber, and she's doing a great job with our daughters, or our daughter. You'll get the second one next year, and then the third one in a few years. So, all right, last words to yours. What are you, what's inspiring you the most these days?
Yeah, so um, I've thought about that, and I like to write down goals for each year. And my goals next year are, but what inspires me to do this are the kids. Um, I I see so many kids that have so many wonderful qualities about them, and they just need somebody to believe in them. So I want to believe in these kids. I want them to know that somebody cares enough about them, other than their parents,
Yep.
that has their best interest at heart. My inspiration comes from working with these students. One day, my ultimate goal is to hopefully open a school for lower socioeconomic kids to break the cycle to show them there's so much more than you don't have to continue on the cycle that your parents continued on. You can break the cycle and you can become something that God has for you and his will for your life and to inspire others, So definitely making a difference in the kids' lives, make a difference in my community. Those are my goals for 2022.
I love that idea of opening a school for,
Mm.
for those lower income brackets. That is a topic that you and I need to talk about. Okay. I
Okay.
love that idea. I said, you got the last word. So we're going to wrap up with your words. Amber McHenry, ladies and gentlemen. Amber, thank you for coming on the show with me. I appreciate you.
Chris, I appreciate the time. Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you. Take care. Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you sticking around and listening to our interview with Amber McHenry. College planning, as I said in the introduction, it's one of those topics that I've seen so many parents talk a lot about, but then kind of at the end of high school, we end up settling for a school that, I don't know, maybe we didn't put a lot of planning into, a lot of thought into, or it's just where the family goes to school. Nothing wrong with that legacy school, but is that the right choice for your child and the the direction that your child's going in the rest of your life, the rest of their life? I don't know. That's a decision between you and your child. But as we thought about the interview, as we look at this interview, I wanted to kind of wrap up with some very practical ideas, because there's a level of practicality that we can talk about that's just a little bit, a few inches, a few feet deep. And then you can dive into practicality and how you dive into the complexities of preparing for college that are miles deep. And I want to kind of strike the best middle ground between the two of that. So we're probably going to end up going just a few feet deep. But as you think about college, as you prepare for college for your child, I want you to start off like this, where you're thinking, you're praying, you're just rolling over in your mind. What is my child? How is my child wired? What are some of the things that they're best fit, they're best prepared to do? Because eventually they're going to have to make these decisions, not you. Okay. But you need to start thinking about it so you can help them think through that process. And so, number one, do this. You start researching college. Just Google, what does fill in the blank school cost each year? Tuition, room book fees, everything. What does that cost? And start saving money now. Start investing right now. Start an account. It can be a 529. Doesn't have to be. There's a lot of other tax ramifications of positives and negatives for both. Okay. I don't personally use 529s to invest to plan for college for my kids, but I've put a lot of clients into 529s. I've had them before in the past. There's a reason I don't. They could be a good fit for you. They could not be a good fit for you. Okay. And by the way, a 529 plan is one that gives you tax advantages on your investment money. Simple enough for today. Okay. So number one, you start saving and invest. Number one, you start researching and you start saving and investing. Number two, you start investing in your child. No matter what their age, ask them this question. What do you want to be when you grow up? Just ask them. And you know what? If they're 8 years old and he wants to pitch for the Yankees, awesome. Don't plan on him pitching for the Yankees. He may have an arm to do that. He may not. But do not be one of those dads. Do not be one of those moms. I've talked to a few of y'all. Don't be that mom or dad, okay? He probably is not getting a college scholarship in athletics, by the way. They're very few and far between, and they end up leaving your body wrecked. That's another topic for another day and one I know personally very well, right? But what do you want to be when you grow up, okay? Now, second to pitching for the Yankees, you want to be an astronaut. Cool, right? How do you become an astronaut? Let's talk about that. Let's think about it. Let them explore their dreams. Let them explore their crazy ideas. We were all kids once and we had them. I think it would do us a little bit of good to still have some of those big dreams and crazy ideas. It's good for the heart, okay? So explore with them. And then as they get older, start expanding on different ideas, okay? Cause them to go dive down. One of the things my wife did with our girls, when we researched, they had to write a book report on different careers. And then she didn't make it overly challenging. The point was to go research different careers, stuff we've never heard about, these really cool jobs that just excited our children. Wow, I'd love to go do that one day. I'd love to go be an anthropologist. I didn't never think about that. I wanted to be a fighter pilot and play defensive end for the Raiders, not pitch for the Yankees. But, what do you want to be when you grow up is a powerful question. And you just let their minds kind of wrap around it and marinate in that idea and grow into it. And then by the time they're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you've normalized that conversation in your family. And so now you can start having grown-up versions of that conversation. But wherever you are, start now. Investing and saving for college and talking and teaching your child. Okay. Number three, I do recommend that you hire a firm to help you in college prep. Whether you go hire a firm or whether you go to a free, there's a state source that is offered, go and get help. It is complicated. Now, are there exceptions to this? 100%. Talking with Josh here during the show, and Josh and his wife went to the U.S. Naval Academy. Do they need to hire somebody to help them get one of their children in the Naval Academy? No, probably not. They know that process pretty well. And if it's changed in the last 20 years, by the time they're sending their kids, you know what? They'll have contacts to help them get into the United States Naval Academy. If you're just set that, hey, our family all goes to Mississippi State and we're going to Mississippi State, fine, good for you. I still actually, in your case, recommend you go hire someone to help you with ACT prep, SAT prep, college applications and scholarships. There's a big, long list of scholarships, stuff you've never heard of. Go hire help. It is worth the investment. It's been invaluable to us. And last, I'd say, this is possibly the most important from a practical standpoint. This is very practical. Be more interested in investing in your child's well-being than in their image, their popularity, their lifestyle, or their comfort. Remember, you are raising adults. So raise someone who is godly, who is good, who works hard, who is ambitious in the right ways, who looks at the world and looks for hard things to go do, who takes on challenges. People like that, they don't just raise themselves. They're parented first. So parent them well. I encourage you. God's built you to do that. He gave you these children as a gift. So raise them well. There's this awesome verse, Proverbs 22:6 says, train a child in the way that he should go. And when he is old, he'll not depart from it. This verse has a few ideas wrapped into it. Number one, train your child in what is right and wrong based on what God's word says. Just because we are in charge of our home does not mean we're the definers of truth. Society sure as heck is not the definer of truth, but neither are we. God is. He's the originator of truth, and he's given us his word. So he clearly teaches us what's right and what's wrong. So don't just demand of your children right and wrong. Actually teach them right and wrong and explain. Something I've said that to my kids a lot, God's not a big, giant cosmic buzzkill. He's actually the originator of fun also. Okay. He is the originator of adventure. He is the originator of ambition. He is the originator of success. So teach your child these things that are good and godly in his way. So that's number one, training up a child in the way that you should go. The second one is train a child in the way they are formed. What are the strengths and weaknesses of your child? What is their personality? What are their dreams and their goals and their ambitions? Just like the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Invest in those. Shape them. Let God shape them. Fuel them. Let those dreams and goals flourish. Okay. A lot of business owners have a tendency to just want one of their children to follow in their footsteps in their career and in their business. Quite frankly, I see this in pastoral families as well. We want somebody, I'm a pastor, I want somebody in the family to be a pastor. You know what? I can speak for myself as a financial advisor, a financial planner, as an investment advisor. I cannot think of a worse career to be in if you don't want to be in the career. I love my career. I love my job. I love what I do with people. But investing other people's money, if you don't like what you're doing, is stressful beyond stressful. And it would crush somebody if they didn't like it. And so just like my career, you don't force your child into your career, but help them find a career that they are best suited for. That is a part of God's crafting and wiring and blessing on their life. All right. And number three, I'd say pray, think, and talk. Explore careers, do research, give them assignments to explore careers. Stop off at colleges when you're on vacations. Okay. Find jobs for them to shadow, but invest in them, pour into them, be interested in their life. And I know that last section, when we're talking, I go biblical, and somebody may think, well, that's not practical. That is exactly practical. That is 100% practical. Investing in them spiritually, mentally, and physically is every bit as practical as buying them a car and far more valuable. All right. And I say that with all the love and respect for you because I want you to raise your kids. I want them to grow to be godly, good, ambitious, successful adults that tackle hard challenges and succeed in those challenges. And just like I say for us all the time, I would say this for them as well. Oh, wow. They are chasing something good. God is chasing them with something great. Take care. God bless.
For disclosure and citation information, please go to www.soundfsg.com/disclosures.